Hello everybody, today we're doing a demonstration of the RAD2400 HD Orgone Generator. This is a video manual of sorts. The Orgone Generator was invented by Karl Hans Wels in 1991. It is not for healing, it's not FDA approved, it's an experimental technology. So don't even ask me about healing because it really doesn't work for healing. Now, Karl built the Orgone Generator in a unique combination of previous theories and studies by various scientists and other individuals, including Mesmer, Wilhelm Reich, Hieronymus, who was the father of radionics. So this device is actually an Orgone generator and a radionics device. So a power radionics device. Now the primary function in the radionics devices you can get anywhere. So we always talk about the Orgone generator part. Radionics simply means action at a distance, and there's a lot of ways to achieve that. These Orgone generators, in particular this video, is for people who already know about Orgone. We're doing occasionally like a basic introduction and things like that, and I'll talk about some of the concepts. But there's quite a bit of reading out there for someone who's interested. I myself am not a scientist. I'm interested in science. And I've done experiments personally with these devices, and I've seen them work time and time again. People also ask me, well, why don't you just, go to the moon? Well, when it comes down to it, this device provides a raw material. It is not the finished product, or it doesn't provide the finished product. The device generates orgone, and orgone, the best we can study, is people call it a primordial life force. So it takes many different forms. Meaning a lot of people have a naturally high amount of orgone. You can think of someone who's born with a lot of wealth, good genetics, good connections, and they still mess it up sometimes. Other people do a lot with very little orgone. So this is not the end-all be-all. It will certainly help and has helped many. People credit it with helping on many different situations. You can read in the reviews. We have perfect 5-star reviews on Etsy. We offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. By the way, very rarely do people take us up on that. One person just said, hey, I need the money. Something happened. Can I return it? And I said, sure. But very rarely do people return it because they're not satisfied. This is not meant to be like a advanced placebo. It's not meant to be like a subtle, well, just give it a few years. People who buy this feel it, notice it. Even skeptics can feel the orgone. So this is, that's what it is. But again, this is going to be a video manual for the RAD2400 HD. See, I got some notes here. Okay, so for starters, let's just do the anatomy. Plugs into a standard wall outlet. If you're overseas, there's adapters. RAD2400 HD, everything's made in the USA. Here's your power input. Audio input, you have input target, input trend, output target, output trend. We're not going to do a whole lot with these today. This is for tethering other generators, or if you had an external well plate or an external rate, you could basically hook up a smaller device and use it for a very specific target. These are useful. If you have many generators, call me and we'll sort through that. But for most people, this is not required, especially since a lot of the structural links are done without wires. Wires are not really needed. A structural link, simply put, is in metaphysics, it's called a witness. If you look up Greg Braden, quantum mechanics, I mentioned this guy before, Dr. Joseph Farrell. If you want to learn about how structural links, the science behind something like that, this guy in particular is very good. Joseph P. Farrell, he's an Oxford scholar. This one's called Secrets of the Unified Field. So for those of you who are, who are smart, interested in educating yourself, then you can learn more about the secrets of the unified field. It's more than just a theory. By the way, author, this is Brother of the Bell, he's, if anything, one of the most outspoken against Nazis, but he did write about them, particularly some of the science they did. So don't be concerned about the title there. He's a total scholar. He cites his work extremely well. He's a great researcher, and he's out of the box for most people, but he's very, very grounded in his knowledge and his citations, and he's very interesting. So, again, it's a little background for you. So getting back to the device, you got it plugged in, you got it turned on. This is your Orgonite stick pad, your 2 well plates, trend and target, and that is a suggestion, not a rule. We made it in a way that it's easy to function, like a 1, 2, 3 situation, but it's a versatile device, and it can be adapted for your personal needs, your personal preferences. Target, trend, dials. And the silver output tube, 99.99% pure silver. As Carl says, silver is the favorite of many professionals. It's a great conduit. In a perfect world, all of our homes would be wired with platinum. It's just not practical cost-wise, but it would work much better than copper. And silver would also work very well, better than copper. All right, so you got it plugged in, you got it turned on. Now, you have the preset frequencies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you have this, it says right. So click over here to the setting that says right, and that gives this dial control of the hertz frequency setting. So I was having a good conversation last night. This does not affect the power per se, like it's not low to high. This affects the frequency of the orgone output. And when I say frequency, I mean frequency, the hertz frequencies, the pace at which the orgone pulses. And I'll get to rates in a minute because that's actually a term that the radionics community took and Carl took to mean a certain thing with radionics. So anyway, so you got your 6 preset frequencies, and then if you turn it all the way to the right, this dial controls the pulse of the output. Now, I tell everyone this, you can use the orgone generator and direct the orgone, including with a target and a trend like optimism, regardless of the frequency. A lot of people just leave the frequency on a low pulse, and the orgone is being generated, so no matter what frequency the orgone generator is set to, the orgone you can direct towards a particular target with a particular trend. Now, when you get into the certain frequencies, you can set a frequency, let's say 62 hertz. It's good for physical vigor. And based on what I just said, you can have a trend of physical vigor on yourself and have a separately functioning operation of something unrelated, like you're boosting your mint plant in your garden or a tomato plant that is charging as well. So the orgone, when directed at a target, when set up properly, will go to that target, and the frequency output is an optional thing. Of course, it has to be at some frequency or else it'd be off, but a lot of people, it's a useful tool, but don't let it get in the way. And once you learn to use it, it's a fun thing. It's another option. So that's what it is. Now, trend and target, you can run within reason. I mean, I think this will power about, we estimate 15 to 20 operations at once. So Trend and target, you can have one target and many different trends. A trend is something like charisma, physical vigor, boost intelligence, things like that. And you can have many different targets in one trend, like optimism on 100 people, or anything in between. 2 targets and 5 trends, 3 for one target, 2 for the other. Now this is all on how you set it up. So getting to set up, the first thing I'll address, because it also has to do with the anatomy, is the rates. So if you notice, all of these dials do not affect the pulsing green light. That's because these dials are only for setting a rate. A rate in radionics is simply a locked-in setting to represent a value assigned, either a target or a trend. A frequency dial, its primary function is frequency, but it can also be used to set rates. Because you have these 6 dials, if you like using the dials, you don't need to use this for rates on the RAD2400. So on the rates and frequency, I'm just going to nip this in the bud while we're addressing it, though it's not super relevant right now. But as an example, with a RAD1000, these dials adjust the frequency. However, you don't get precision frequency tuning. So these dials are primarily for setting the rates. So when you set a rate, you're locking in like a target, for example. So you think of the target, you lock it in. Well, you've got a good visual of the target, and that's your rate. Now, that does change the frequency, but that's not the important part. The important part is the focus on the dial when connecting with an abstraction, a target, a trend. That's how a radionics setting works. Now, once that's set, you can go on to do the trend and everything else. You can do the trend with a structural link and so forth. But that sets your target. It's based on an ideomotor response, which is like a pendulum, a muscle test, so on and so forth. So on these, it's the same thing. You have 3 trend dials. And again, you can change this up. The stickers are here. This is basically a structural link setting. Trend plate, target plate, trend dials, target dials. So that's the default. But if you wanted to put pictures of 10 targets here and set it up that you had 6 different trends here, then you could do that for all the targets. Now, first things first, when you're running multiple operations, you want to do equal and separate operations. Otherwise, your cat will fall in love with, they'll start being interested in classical music, equal and separate operations. This can go under the device or on top, it's whatever, as long as it's very nearby. Now, trend and target rates. So what you could do here, because these are paired, you could do one trend for one target. So I'll do an example. Target my garden, and I'm thinking of my garden once I've got it to stick here and lock in here. So using both hands is another optional thing, but what you're doing is you're turning the dial, you're circling your finger, and once you get it to stick, basically when you have a clear, defined mental abstraction of your intended target or trend, depending on what you're setting, then the idea is your finger will stick, and that will signify that you lock in the rate. And because you're the one setting it, again, they've done studies, people will scribble things, go look at them later. It's no one else can read it, but they'll remember because of the association. So you're creating a connection. That's all you're doing. And when you're using both hands, you're using both sides of the brain. What Just like with the professional mind mappers, which are mainstream, they want you to use beautiful colors and curves instead of just straight lines and black and white, because you're using both sides of the brain, left and right brain, creative and logical. There you have it. Now, target, garden, trend, say rapid growth. So I could visualize them growing quickly. You could do like a light visualization. You can also make it very pragmatic, very to the point, just rapid growth, and then boom, lock it in using your higher mental body. It doesn't require a bunch of detail, a bunch of flowery imagery and stuff like that. As long as the setting is there, the orgone goes to the intended target with the intended trend. Now, you've got that set up. We can do another target, myself, which is pretty easy because I'm right here, So, myself, trend, say, optimism is a great one. It's magnetic. So we'll just do optimism. It's another simple, it's a feel good optimism. So when I'm locking this in, I can again just set it. As a matter of fact, that's optimism, right? And if you're setting it with certainty, then you're establishing the connection. Say the Orgonite works like an organic computer chip, but the setting is there. Again, this is not for this is not the beginner class. So some of these concepts, if you're not already into them, then we'll talk to you later. But the kind of person who'd buy an Orgone generator is someone who already at least knows that this works or has a good idea that it does. And then again, once you have it, test it for yourself, and then when you get the results, you'll then know again for sure. Every time I get results, I get a boost of confidence. I never forget that it works. I always know that it works, but it does add to your momentum and your confidence, just like anything else. Playing baseball, practicing, doing business, whatever, music. So again, myself, optimism. You could visualize someone who's very optimistic. You could think of someone in an optimistic moment. Third target, let's say your friend's house. Maybe they're having some issues. You could think of the house. Okay. And let's just say we want it to be just a neutral orgone charge. So you just want the orgone to go there. So that's the target, the house, and then you simply have it put that the orgone goes to the house. Now I'll show you an alternative there. You can also do this number. You write their address. One, 2, 3 Main Street. It's a great place. Okay, and you don't have to set it in that case. Now you can get your device all cluttered this way. So you'd also do this, target, Main Street. Now if you have equal and separate operations and you have multiple targets here, multiple trends, you're gonna need to specify or connect them in some way. You can do it mentally if you're an experienced practitioner, but for starters, it's better to do it, a written connection or some sort of physical connection. That's what these pairings are. So for here, we can do 1, 2, 3 target and 1, 2, 3 trend. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The numbers that are corresponding. So target 1, the Joe. Trend 1, physical vigor. Target 2, Sally. Target 3, dog, spark. It's your dog, Spark, okay? Here, I'm just writing them out, but you watch. Sally, good luck. Dog, generic orgone. You actually won't need to write anything there. Okay, so you can do it like that. Now with this device, you could have all three of these going and the dials maintained. Okay. Now, let's say Sally's applying for a job. So instead of just good luck, we're going to help her with a little more specificity. We're going to have that her interviewer views Sally as qualified and associates Sally with success. One thing they're starting to teach and publish more now, experts, is that people don't really make decisions off of logic, mostly make them based on emotion and then justify them logically. Of course, there's as many objective realities as there are particles in the universe. You know, people talk about this now. 2 movies on the same screen, string theory, simulation. So, point being, for the interviewer to associate Sally with success is a powerful orgone operation, especially if you said it the night before, because they'll think of their successful friend, their neighbor, the time they felt successful, and associate Sally with that, and hopefully get her a better shot at getting the job. Now, I've definitely applied for jobs I'm way underqualified for and got them, but if Sally's applying for a job that's, there's almost, there's zero chance that she'll get it, you could think of your own example. Is this going to help? No. It's not going to move the needle. It's not going to change the outcome. You got to do stuff that's possible. Meaning, let's say Sally doesn't have the prerequisite degree. She doesn't have any of the skills. And anyway, so someone going in with those requirements, they're running their own operation. Everyone's running operations all the time. Just some people have the added boost, others don't. Now, don't get me wrong. I've certainly seen stuff that I've otherwise thought was miraculous happen thanks to the generator. So it's worth a try. But it's important to have that caveat. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Again, the celebrity example, the guy calls me, well, I want to date Taylor Swift. Well, if you think of how many millions of people are energizing that outcome with their own life force, who are covetous or hold her as desirable. Same thing with a football game. You have many, many different life force field operations trying to influence the outcome, working on influencing the outcome. So, targets, trends, silver output tube. Now you can set your preset tuner and you can have it de facto linked to yourself with the power booster, which these power boosters are 119, silver output tube, and it comes with a structural link pendant. So if you're carrying this on you, you've got a structural link to the Orgone generator wherever you go. Okay, so you don't, that's your way of targeting yourself. Now, you can set your frequency here. You could have the whole thing running towards yourself. Use this as 6 different trends. You could put a book on there even that you want to learn. Put, supplement, all kinds of stuff, and just have it target yourself. So there's a lot of ways to use it. With the power booster, that also boosts the output. You can also use the TC99 Orgonite pendant pair. Just put one like right here basically and carry the other one with you. It's not a TC99, but it works the same. You can also use structural link cards. 2 pieces of plastic. As long as the link is there. Remember, the link is just a vehicle for the orgone to transfer through. Someone asked me, well, plastic, well, look at all the stuff around us. But it matters not. It's an etheric energy. It's transferring through a physical medium by a connection. So it's not like you're getting any BPA or anything extra just from using a structural link plastic cards. If you want those, just ask us for them, and they're pretty easy to get. So, all right, that's all for now. Talk to you later.